All right. As I do my best Matthew McConaughey impression in honor of Texas, hounds up, going to the SEC title game. Not a big Texas fan, but, I respect it, and I'd like to see him beat Georgia. I'm Jordan. This is Will. And welcome to Load the Box Texas University. This is actually Load the Box Vikings, as it always is, and thank you so much for joining us. Will... as always, you can find him on X and social media at Will Badlose. Badluzo, how are you feeling after a heart attack of a game? The first one of the year, I think, right? I mean, Green Bay was kind of this, where it was like, uh-oh. But that one, we were kind of defending. It was almost like swatting flies, whereas this one, we were the mosquito trying to get to Kyler Murray. How you feeling, man? I mean, this was a crazy one.
Yeah, it was definitely up there. The Bears game had elements of that too, but that was sort of suppressed into a 17-minute real-time window from about the time of 3:10 Central Time to about 3:27 Central Time is when it was, terrifying. This game it felt sluggish, I think was the way I describe it. And to be honest with you, maybe we can blame the Thanksgiving turkey, but I think really, as an aside, it honestly might help to be a road team the week of Thanksgiving because you're just business trip mode. You're not thinking about Thanksgiving dinner. You're just going and trying to win a football game. I'm assuming the Vikings players and team staff and all the people who live here, they probably all had family Thanksgiving dinners on Thursday. They probably all did their whole thing. So who knows? Maybe that does have an effect. I kind of don't think it does, but I don't know. Maybe we can start there, Jordan. Do you think that sort of thing actually matters in a game like this?
I don't think it does, and even if it did, like Arizona had the same thing. It's not like it's like when people complain about Thursday night football, and it's like, well, the Lions got screwed, or the Vikings got screwed because they have to play on Thursday night, 2 weeks after the bye, and the blah, blah, blah. And it's like, yeah, but so do the Rams. The team you're playing is also playing on a short week, and so I don't know. I hate finding excuses like that. You could say excuses like that feel bad. I'm calling you out. All right, you're whooping my hind end in the score predictions. Okay, you're just blowing me out. It's nasty. So I'm calling you out. All right, feels bad for Will Goodwin. I don't think the 49ers, the Bears, or the Cowboys are making the playoffs. And that's almost half of your NFC prediction. Your Jags stink, and the Rams are still up in the air. So I'm throwing it out there, okay? I'm firing shots early and often at Will because he is whooping me. I think I didn't even check the total now. It is a 22-point massacre right now in terms of how close we've been to the sky. It's been ugly for me. So, feels bad for Will.
I am nailing those score predictions though, Jordan. 2 weeks after I got the 23-13 exactly right, I guessed 23-20 yesterday. I was real close.
Yeah, you were safety.
That's about as close as you can get. But yes, my playoff picks, they deserve ridicule. They deserve anything you can throw at them. My NFC is in shambles. My AFC is not much better. My Jags, I think Trevor Lawrence died yesterday. Yeah. All the best to him. I hope he feels better and can play football again. But the Jaguars are toast. If they weren't now, they're officially toast. The Bengals had a fork stuck in them about 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Well, the only thing I've gotten right is the Bills and the Chiefs. I mean, the Texans are going to win that division, but it's sort of by default because it's horrible.
Yeah.
The Texans don't look very good. I have them on fraud alert. And the Chargers and the Ravens, my other two wildcard teams, I think they'll probably end up making the playoffs just based on the sort of weakness of the AFC, but I don't know, man. The Ravens do not inspire me. And if they make the playoffs, they're one and done. They don't inspire any confidence. They're not consistent. They play down to competition. They just play poorly at home. It's just a weird team. Justin Tucker can't make a kick now.
Yeah, can I ask you a question about just real quickly? I know this is our excuse. Feels good, feels bad is just our excuse to talk anything except for the Vikings football related for the first 5 or so minutes of the show. Who do you have more confidence in offense-wise? You need 3 points at the end of the game. Would you rather have the Steelers offense and special teams or the Ravens offense and special teams? I think it's the Steelers.
The Steelers.
Right?
And I don't think it's particularly close right now.
Neither do I.
And obviously the Ravens, they have Lamar, they have Mark Andrews, they have Isaiah Likely, they have Derrick Henry. So they have weapons. And they have the scariest, dual threat quarterback in the league, maybe outside of Josh Allen. But there's not enough consistency in a gotta have it passing game. You saw that yesterday. It was 2 hit and miss. You're relying on the running game, and then you pull back from the running game.
Yep.
And then Lamar's trying to jump over people, and Justin Tucker can't make extra points. So if you're trying to get into a position where you need to kick a field goal to tie the game, I don't trust it. If I'm Baltimore, I said this jokingly yesterday to one of my friends, but you consider signing Parker Romo once Will Reichard comes
No, you
back.
do. You legitimately do. And look, I get that Baltimore, that would feel like an overreaction, but it's not like Baltimore's season is over. They are firmly in position. They're going to be a wild card team. Yeah, I think you give him a call and you at least bring him into a practice squad situation and you put the pressure on Tuck. And I actually think, bold prediction, Justin Tucker next season is going to kick. He's going to be back to Justin Tucker levels for a different team. I don't know what team that is, but he's going somewhere and he's going to be back. I think we've seen that in the history of the league. A team moves off of an aging kicker because the kicker, he loses some leg or he loses some accuracy, and then it's like he gets it back. He's rejuvenated, and he has a career resurgence. But I want to go back really quick. I do want to point this out. Neither one of us, this feels good, neither one of us bit on the national media narratives about the AFC East. Okay, neither one of us. Everyone said the Jets, the Dolphins. I put the Dolphins as a wild card team. That could still happen, okay? But, neither one of us bit. We said, no, this is the Bills division, okay? It's Josh Allen. I don't care who's playing wide receiver. They run the ball well. They play good defense. They have a defensive coach. They're built for Buffalo. I mean, they really are. Big, strong QB, good defense, good run game. That's Buffalo football. And they locked up the division. So that one is in stone, etched in stone. We got that one, we're 1-for-1. The Chiefs, I don't think they've clinched the division. I think Denver could still some wonky way get that. But they've clinched a playoff spot. So, 1.5 for, whatever. But, feels bad for me. The Raiders getting screwed on Black Friday. Black Friday, the, Raider Nation, the black hole or whatever they call their stupid stadium. I already feel bad that I had them as a playoff team, and they're terrible. But man, I'm not a conspiracy guy, but in my life, if a ref signals false start, dead ball. That's all I'm saying. And to change that and say that what happened after the dead ball counts now is pretty crazy. It's just pretty crazy,
Was that and I wasn't watching that live, so I just saw the silent highlight on SportsCenter. Was the false start, was it a false start or was it an illegal shift or something like that?
Well, they blew it dead. I'm pretty sure there were whistles happening. And so they ended up calling it illegal formation because everyone was looking around when the ball was snapped because it wasn't supposed to be snapped. I mean, I think personally it was a false start on the Ceno. That's neither here nor there. I didn't have money on the game, anything like that. I have Brock Bowers in fantasy. He put up a gazillion points, but that's kind of it. I feel bad. I kind of threw you under the bus. I don't feel bad. Again, you're whooping my hind end in what matters in the score prediction. Sure, go ahead, lambast me for something.
Jordan, I don't have much to lambast you for because I was so ready to come on here this afternoon. We're recording this on a Monday afternoon, folks. It's December 2nd. And I was going to, just laugh at Jordan for picking the Bucks to win the Super Bowl, and they go to Carolina and lose, but you know, Chuba Hubbard decided he didn't really want to win, so he pulled a Delvin Cook and fumbled in overtime and led to the opposition driving down for the game-winning field goal after the Bucks had already missed a field goal in overtime. Just brutal. And I was just ready to come on here and just laugh because, in air quotes, my Falcons, they are increasingly becoming less and less my Falcons the more they lose, and it's Kirk Cousins week, so they are not my anything this week. And yet, the Bucks somehow walked out of whatever that stadium is called in Charlotte with a win, and now are tied. Obviously, they don't have the tiebreaker over the Falcons, but they definitely have the schedule advantage over the Falcons down the last 5 weeks here.
And they have the momentum.
It's looking more and more like Bucks are going to win that division. Falcons are going to miss the playoffs, and my playoff predictions are looking worse by the day in the NFC. So I might end up with 2.
This will be final feels bad, and this is get the world's smallest violin out to start playing. I needed to win out. I have 2 weeks left in fantasy, this week and next week. I needed to win out to make the playoffs in my big, my important league. And I'm down, I think 8 or 9, and I have Rashad White. And so they get the ball back in overtime, and I look at my wife and I said, there's a chance. I mean, if he breaks like a 30-yard touchdown, I win. And then he breaks a 35-yard run, gets to like the 5, and gets pushed out of bounds. And I wept in my hands. And then Baker took a knee to center the ball, and they kicked the field goal and escaped with a W. And I thought, I hate everything. Bucky Irving had a career day. I've been fighting with Bucky Irving all season. So, world's smallest violin, my fantasy season is donezo because Rashad White couldn't get 5 more yards and score a touchdown. That would have been the best win I've ever had in fantasy. It would have been a 1-point sneaker of a win. But, here we are. Let's talk about real football, not fantasy. Will, I'll let you kick us off talking about Arizona. Arizona, I'm just going to say it, looked like the better team most of that game until they got in the red zone, and then the Vikings defense, kind of stood back up, kind of a little bit of a Ed Donatel-esque performance from Brian Flores and his unit. What did you think of the game overall, and what takeaways do you have?
Yeah, I mean, like I said at the beginning, it felt sluggish, but to be honest with you, I felt it was more what Arizona was doing than what Minnesota was doing poorly. It's not as if receivers were dropping passes. I mean, I guess you had the Aaron Jones fumbling problem, which we can get to, but apart from that, it didn't appear that Minnesota was, executing at a significantly worse rate apart from, again, the fumbling and probably blitz pickups, but it really felt like Arizona had a good plan, and they executed that plan really well defensively. And from an offensive perspective, they weren't going backwards. They were just efficient and boring and, 7 yards to Trey McBride over and over again. And they just were methodical in moving down the field. They dominated the game, similar to how the Vikings dominated the Indianapolis and Jacksonville games. But in this case, the Vikings, doing what good teams do, they found a way, and they did what Kevin O'Connell preaches all the time, which is being at your best when your best is required. And they did that in those last 3 offensive drives, really the last maybe 4 defensive stands, allow a couple field goals, and that's it. And, I mean, you give up 400 yards of offense. It shouldn't have been as close as it was, but the ability of the defense to stand up in the red zone, like you said, force field goal attempts, they missed one of them, and just put the clamps on. It was an impressive win. Just based on kind of, you look at the whole stat sheet, and Arizona should have won that game. But Down the stretch, plays were made. Sam Darnold was attacked all day, was not doing a good job protecting blitzes. He was not changing to the right protections. And he was getting destroyed because of it. I mean, I think 5 or 6 sacks by Arizona. But when it mattered, in the fourth, when the game was still within reach, somehow, like a sliver, they needed that touchdown drive down 13. From that moment on, those 3 following drives, you get 17 points. He was awesome. He was, I mean, nearly flawless. And it was impressive to watch that because, again, this team has found a way to win close games. And I think maybe the last thing I'll say, kind of to round this out, this team feels different to me than the 2022 team, because the 2022 team was fun and it was magical, but it felt fluky. The defense wasn't good. It was a dam. It was just a leaky dam that was eventually going to break. And lo and behold, Daniel Jones broke it. And the offense was good enough, but it relied on perfect execution down the stretch in every game, it felt like, to come out with wins. And so it was teetering too much on needing perfection. This team has an incredible defense and an offense that is not dissimilar from the 2022 version, but I think it feels more tuned. This is the third year with this coach and this system. They seem to have the answers to the test when they need them. There was no panic, no pressure putting themselves in that last drive when they're down 6. A couple third down conversions, that fourth down conversion. It just feels like this iteration of the team is more real and a real good team compared to that 2022 team, which was kind of just fun. Yeah. Last thing I'll say, again, to your point about the red zone, the Cardinals struggle in the red zone. This season, they're only scoring touchdowns 52% of the time. Obviously, that bakes into that calculation yesterday, which I don't even know what they were in the red zone, like 1 for 7 or something. But they're not a team that has succeeded in the red zone, and the Vikings took advantage of that.
Yeah, I think that I like what you're saying about this Vikings team. It does feel a little bit more real. It does feel like an actual, hey, this, 2022 or whatever it was, like, we all kind of knew, like, are you going to win playoff games, with a 17-point comeback in the fourth quarter and overtime? Like, no. Good teams aren't going to let you do that. And it did feel like every week it was, they were just escaping just by, the skin of their teeth or whatever. And so I think this team, like you said, the defense, I'm only half kidding. It really was like an Ed Donatel day defensively. I can't tell you how many times I was like, hey, why are we playing so much off coverage? And hey, like, we just keep bending, but they wouldn't break, and then they finally did break, and that's kind of when the offense woke up. It was like the offense needed to see a touchdown be scored, and they were like, oh, I forgot you can do that, and then they decided they could do it. But I think there's 2 ways you can look at games like yesterday or like Sunday. You can, there's optimism and pessimism, obviously, and so the pessimistic view is, yeah, I mean, it's Arizona. I personally think Arizona's a very good football team. I think they'll go into the playoffs. I put them in the playoffs before the season, and I've been impressed by what they've done since. I mean, I think they're solid. And so, just the way we performed in that one, I would have been happier, I think, if it was like a 20. I mean, I don't know. Like, if it was more spread out, I guess. The scoring was a little bit more spread. It just felt like it was really bad for most of the game, and then we toned it on at the end. So, you would like to see a little bit more consistency throughout the game. But, so you can look at it that way. Flip side, you can look at it as, hey, the Vikings didn't have their fastball, clearly. Whatever game plan, whatever they diagnosed in the film room on how they were going to attack Arizona's defense, clearly wasn't it. It just wasn't working. And whatever Arizona drew up was working. They were moving down the field, and then, like you said, they struggled in the red zone. And so Arizona, beat themselves in that regard. But I do think the Vikings' original game plan was too much long developing plays, too many Too much not accounting for Arizona's F send 8. And they did that. I mean, they sent 7 or 8 a couple times, and Sam would they put CJ Ham back there to pick up a blitz. But if you got 5 linemen and a CJ Ham to pick up a blitz, well, who's picking up guy number 7? And they just didn't have the answers for that. But I think they did a good job of adjusting. Big props to Kevin O'Connell, by the way. Anyone that has the take of like Kevin O'Connell can't win a Super Bowl, he's not a good coach. We might as well move on now. We watch different football games every week. We have to. Like, your TV must be broken, something, because this guy, he's 10-2 now for the second time in his Vikings tenure, which is just incredible. And he is also like he comes out and like he's one of the quickest adjustment makers I think I see in the league. He sees a half of, okay, they're blitzing, they're doing all this. What are they going to do in the second half? How can I adjust the game plan to get JJ involved, to get TJ involved? I mean, Addison, I don't think, had a catch until the fourth quarter. So he gets all his guys involved, he gets it all going, and the Vikings end up kind of snowballing themselves in the fourth quarter into a 1-point victory. And, obviously, Kevin O'Connell does the offense. Big ups to B-Flow for O'Connell said, look, they still got like a minute and a half and 3 timeouts, so don't let them get any points, please. And B-Flow said, okay, you got it. We won't even give up a touchdown, a first down. So big ups to B-Flow for that. But I know you wanted to have the conversation. Actually, I'll let you get us into it because June's getting a little fussy, so let me go check on her. But
yeah, and honestly, I got another question first. I'm gonna spring one on you here, and I'll kind of give you my thoughts. Arizona up 3 with about, I guess, 3.5 minutes left. It's 4th and goal from the 5, and you're Arizona. They obviously kicked the field goal to go up 6. Greg Olson was the analyst on the call, and he was in favor of Arizona going for it because in his mind, up 3, the team you're going against, in this case the Vikings, might not be as aggressive. They might, quote-unquote, settle for a field goal, and they might not try to beat you. They might just try to go down the field, kick a field goal, and get this thing to overtime. For example, it's 4th and 7 at the 34-yard line or something of Arizona. Vikings converted that on 4th down. They might have tried to kick that with Parker Romo to tie the game if they're down 3. In fact, they probably do try and kick it. He made a 55-yarder earlier in the game. Why not trot him out there again? So I think that was Greg Olson's take. What do you think when you were sitting there, Vikings down 3, Arizona kicking a field goal on 4th down? What were you thinking? Were you thinking, good, thanks for kicking the field goal? Or were you hoping they were going to go for it?
I was... And this is where I love like the old man football take of like analytics doesn't know about momentum, because analytics doesn't know about momentum. And I don't know what analytics says should have been done in that situation, but I think Arizona made the wrong call. And that's obviously hindsight 2020. But in that moment, as a Vikings fan, I was peeing down my leg thinking, oh crap, please kick the field goal. Please kick the field goal, because if you kick the field goal, there's hope. If you go for it and you get it, there's no hope. I mean, you put the game away. And I am of the belief you don't want to give, like, the Vikings have a good offense. I think we can just say, I know Sam Darnold's the QB, whatever. It's been 12, 13 weeks now of Sam Darnold. We should be able to say, yeah, the Vikings have a really good offense, and they're potent, and they can strike at any time in a lot of different ways. Maybe don't let that be, like, don't give that a chance to beat you. It's like all these teams that, like they kick a field goal to go up 2 on the Chiefs and they celebrate. And it's like, you just can't do that. So, you give a team that has an offensive-minded coach, a very respected offensive-minded head coach, Justin Jefferson, the best player in the league, TJ Hawkinson, one of the best tight ends who's finally starting to turn it on, Addison, who had been bottled up all day but was like, he's been explosive in recent weeks. Like, it's just too risky to not say, well, we have arguably the better quarterback. Let's put the game away with our QB right now. Let's not leave it up in the air at all. Let's put it away. We have the opportunity as an offense to put it away. And so I was in favor for them to go for. If I was a neutral football fan or if I was an Arizona fan, I would be, go for that and put the game away. You paid Kyler all that money, do it. They didn't. I look, and I also, again, momentum. The Vikings offense was kind of moving, right? I mean, they had gotten some field goals. They'd gotten a touchdown. They were kind of moving at that point. But, Arizona's defense for 3 quarters, or 2.5 quarters, they were damn good. I mean, they were kind of shutting the Vikings down. So I understand the decision. I don't think Jonathan Gannon should be lambasted today or anything. But
no, absolutely not. I agree with pretty much everything you're saying. It wasn't an egregious Matt Eberflus level game management decision. Rest in peace. I hope you all had a Thanksgiving better than him, for what it's worth. But I do know that as I was sitting there watching that game yesterday, I was relieved as a Vikings fan when I saw them trot out the kicker. So that told me all I needed to know about what I thought about the decision. I was glad they were going to kick it. So the thing that I did want to get into here before we close down the Cardinals Week 13 segment of the show for this week is just sort of a retrospective on where we think this team's at. Obviously, you're getting to the point in the season where Bill Belichick would always say, the most important football is played after Thanksgiving. Well, folks, we're after Thanksgiving, and it's December, and there are 5 weeks of football left. The Vikings are securely in a playoff spot. It's not official yet, but they'll make the playoffs. But where do we think this team's at? Are they a true NFC contender? Are they on that Eagles-Lions level? And then if you look league-wide, are they on a Bills-Chiefs level? Are they true Super Bowl contenders? I mean, that's the question that people want to know the answer to right now. And I'll let you start, Jordan. But I'm curious. I'm curious how you view this team in the macro landscape of the league.
Yeah, I like that because there's something when you watch the Lions, when you watch the Bills, I'm not putting the Chiefs in that conversation. The Chiefs are a very good team, and you have to respect what they have done the last 2 seasons. But when you watch them play this year, they do not look like the best team in football. Philadelphia and Detroit look like the best. Philadelphia, point blank, honestly, looks like the best team in football by themselves. So there is something different about watching Philadelphia just kind of manhandle people over and over again. And every week I go into a Philly game, I'm like, okay, this one should be competitive, and I'd like for Baltimore to win. I'd like for the Rams to beat them. I'd like for whoever to beat them. And they just kind of punish them for trying. And it's like, oh my gosh, it's brutal watching it. So I don't think the Vikings are at that level. I think if I had to, tier out, if you will, the top teams in the NFC alone, it would be the Eagles by themselves. I think Detroit is in this secondary tier with all of their injuries. I think in that secondary tier, along with Detroit, is probably Detroit's towards the top of that tier, and then Minnesota's towards the middle of that tier, and then Green Bay is towards the bottom of that tier. I hate to be, just check the standings guy, but it does feel like the NFC North standings are pretty correct in how good the teams are. I mean, I think the Vikings are more consistent than Green Bay. I think the Lions, if health was not a factor, I think they would be right there with Philadelphia, and they would be on a showdown path for the championship game. But unfortunately, they're kind of dropping like flies in Detroit, and that's part of the game. So I'm trying to think if I've left any teams out of this that are kind of on the Vikings level, but I think we'll a step above the entire NFC West, and I think we'll step above the entire NFC South. I mean, the best that those divisions have to offer anyway. I mean, I just think that the NFC North minus Chicago and Philadelphia are kind of, and Washington over the last few weeks has kind of fallen to okay, yeah, playoff team. Maybe you could have an 0-7 Giants run where you just get hot and you rush the passer like crazy and whatever. But Yeah, I think the Vikings. I'm standing firm on my preseason commitment. They're a wild card team. I'd love to not be, but they're a wild card team, and I said they were going to win a playoff game with Sam Darnold, and it was going to be fun. And then, it's going to end in heartbreak like it always does. But I don't think they're going to win the Super Bowl, but I think they could, and they're going to win a playoff game. I'm standing on that.
Yeah, and to your point about the Lions, they just brought in Jamal Adams, veteran safety linebacker type. I saw a report that he was actually practicing with their linebackers this week instead of safeties, which is where he, has historically played. So, would be interesting to see him play on Thursday night against the Packers. Unclear if he will suit up or not, but right now it's just a practice squad deal. But yeah, I don't have much to add because I think the way you lay out the NFC, I tend to agree. The things that I would maybe note of like where I think the Vikings and really the Packers fall a little short. Well, let me just stay this with the Vikings. I think the things that might hold them back if they rear their ugly head are Sam Darnold's turnover proneness. He has had a little bit too. The last two games have been much better. Lots of credit there. He has not had many turnover-worthy plays. He's looked a lot more accurate. Not as many, oh my gosh, what are you doing type moments. So that is a big improvement. But when you look at, how you win football games, and it's Kevin O'Connell's tenure here is evidence of this. If you turn the ball over more than the other team, you're probably going to lose. It's just kind of the way it works in the NFL, especially you get into the playoffs and it's good teams every week. You got to be pristine. And so that could be a problem. The other thing that I think holds this team back from being a true Super Bowl contender is the interior of the offensive line. I just worry about their ability to hold up consistently because, again, when you get into the playoffs and you got the Eagles and there's 600 Georgia defensive linemen rushing down Garrett Bradbury and Blake Brendell's throats, it could be bad really quick. And this is sort of a hot and cold running game. And if you get into a situation where you need those interior guys to really hold up against some all-pro level talents that you're going to face with Philadelphia, with Detroit, in the interior of the line, I worry about the sustainability of that. So those are kind of the two main things. I don't worry much about the defense. I think they're going to, despite maybe some flaws and shortcomings, they're going to compete. They're going to keep this team in games. They've done it all season against every team they've played. It's just, I think there's those couple things offensively that I worry about. But they're close, man. I mean, you never know. I mean, if this offense continues to keep the ball in their hands, stop turning it over, if Aaron Jones can fix this fumbling problem, which seems to came out of nowhere, you never know where this could lead. I mean, we've seen crazier things. And for those who are worrying about Sam Darnold overall as a viable quarterback in this league, I think it's over. I think worrying about Sam Darnold's ability to compete at a high level for the Minnesota Vikings this season, I think we can be done worrying about that. Yeah, the turnovers, like I said, could rear their head again, but this guy has had a 100 or more passer rating in every game this season but two. He is at a level of, he's in the upper echelon, not just the middle of the pack. He's in the upper echelon of quarterbacks this season. If you look at him compared to Patrick Mahomes, they've had almost identical seasons, and I'm not being hyperbolic. It's just, I think we need to be done with the Sam Darnold can't do it in the playoffs bit because, I don't know, man, this guy just completed a 13-point comeback in the second half against a playoff team. So I think for at least for now, I think we can be done worrying about him. He's got 12 weeks of tape. It's looking good. He's been consistent. Give the credit to him. Give the credit to Kevin O'Connell. I don't really care. But
It's kind of
he is a
and not to
quarterback.
not to cut you off, but it kind of going back to the 2022 team. It was like, trust your eyes, man. like the defense in 2022 was terrible. We all knew it was terrible, and then we got to the playoffs, and well, I'll ask you, how did the defense do against Daniel Jones in the playoffs in 2022? What one word to describe that defense?
Not. That's 2 words.
Terrible.
Invisible.
That's fine. That's good too. You don't want to be invisible as a defense. Like it's just it. Trust your eyes. Sam Darnold looks good. He plays good, and we're in this weird spot, and we're about to get into the Falcons, so we'll start the Cousins stuff now. The Vikings are in the same spot they've been in for the last 7 years, just about. The offense is good. The QB is good. He sometimes dips to being not great, but still okay. And sometimes he plays like an MVP. I mean, it's the same thing up and down the board, except, Sam has a little bit more escapability, a bigger arm, and higher draft pedigree for what that's worth. He also costs about $35 million less. So, there's some pros and cons on either side. Kirk Cousins, of course, drives a funny van, and has nice teeth, so he's got that going for him. But in all seriousness, I think the Vikings are man, imagine if Kirk Cousins had this defense. How would you feel? You'd be like, oh, shoot, even if Kirk has a bad day, the defense can bail him out. And I think we've seen that. Trust your eyes. Sam's had a couple bad games. Defense has bailed him out, and he's gotten it done when he needed to. So, I agree with you. I think that Sam Darnold bit, I'm ready for that to be over. I'm also ready for this portion of the show to be over, so I will forego my final thoughts and let you take us into an ad break here. YouTube audience, we will see you guys on Thursday. Hope you had a happy Thanksgiving.
Fantastic. My very brief final thoughts. My low-key favorite moment of that game on Sunday against Arizona was when Kevin O'Connell called his final timeout with 40 seconds left. It's 4th and 10. The clock was already stopped. But he just wanted Jonathan Grenard to get on the field for 4th down. And I loved that because I was sitting there and I saw that Arizona, they only had 1 timeout left. Grenard was gassed. He had just made 2 huge plays, stripping the ball from Kyler Murray and then chasing him down on a scramble the next play. He was gassed. He's been sick all week. He was on the sideline trying to catch his breath. O'Connell just gave him another minute. He took his final timeout because he wanted his best defensive pass rusher on the field. And I love that because what do we always hear in sports? It's players. It's not plays in the big moments. It's not what you draw up. It's who's on the field. And Kevin O'Connell had the awareness that his guy was heaving on the sideline, huffing and puffing, and he needed to get him out there. And I love that. They generate enough pressure on Kyler on the 4th down play. He throws up a prayer and it's intercepted. And here we are at 10-2. So one of my favorite moments from the game yesterday was that coaching decision. We'll be back for a very brief Kirk Bowl 2024 breakdown. It's going down on Sunday. We're excited. We'll talk to you then. Skol, y'all.